Welcome to the Family Builders Podcast. No matter what our family dynamic is, we can all use some help from time to time. Our hope and prayer is that this podcast is a help and a blessing to you each and every week. And now our host, Pastor David Moore, and co-host, Pastor A.J. Harold.
Hello, fellow builders. Welcome to this week's episode of the Family Builders Podcast. We're so glad to have you join us. This is your host, Pastor David Moore from Lakeview Baptist Church in Newcastle, Oklahoma. And joining me, as always, from high atop the Hollywood Hills in the beautiful palatial Crystal Studios, Pastor A.J. Harold. Brother Harold, how are you this week?
Hey, doing well. Recovering from a great weekend. I don't think recovering's the right word. Still excited about God and Country Sunday, the 4th of July weekend, anniversary.
Amen.
Just all these things. Just been a good weekend. Looking forward to recording this with you today.
Amen. You have, for our listeners' benefit, we have begun recording kind of on Mondays right now. It seems to be a day that works really well for us. But that, of course, is coming on the cusp of Sunday. And if you aren't familiar, Mondays are a little rough on pastors just because Sundays takes quite a bit out of us. And so we're if we seem a little extra silly in our recordings, maybe that's why, because we're doing it on Mondays. But we're glad to be able to have the time to be able to get together and visit with each other and allow you folks to listen in and, Lord willing, to receive some spiritual benefit from our meanderings and our talkings and our sometimes arguings and always having a good time fellowshipping in the Lord. But we are just delighted to have you with us again and hope that these podcasts are being a blessing to each of you. Well, Brother Harold, why don't you go ahead and give us this week's Builder's Tip?
All right. I've been looking forward to sharing this Builder's Tip. I don't know about you, Brother Moore, but it seems like every so many, the Builder's Tip comes from something I'm experiencing in the moment. And so this morning, I really just personally was in a slump. Wasn't one thing, it was probably 1,000 things. But I was in a slump, and I did something that I want to recommend to you, family builders. I'm going to entitle this, Make the Call. What I did was I called a pastor friend who I have never called before to, and I don't mean to be grotesque, but to throw up on them. Meaning I was sick on the inside and I needed some relief, and I just shared my heart with a pastor friend about almost everything. And then he unloaded about 4 or 5 biblical truths that countered my thinking, countered or aided in just helping me get out of the slump. And to be honest with you, I didn't hang up, oh, I'm better, but I was equipped to go through this day completely different. And so I want to encourage you, family builders, to make the call. We are not designed to carry our burdens alone. Cast our burdens on Jesus, and Jesus has given us one another, and we can bear one another's burdens. So make the call.
Yeah, that's a great tip. You know, too often, the only one we cast our burdens on is our spouse or our children, and it ends up being a heavy weight for them to bear that they're not intended to bear. And so,
Right.
definitely reaching out to a brother or sister in Christ, and you know, depending if you're the husband or the wife, obviously, and of course, we can always go to the Lord. And so that's a great builder's tip. Thanks, Brother Harold. I want to remind our listeners also of our sponsor. Midwest Christian Academy is a full-service homeschool organization. They are accredited as well, and they will provide everything from diagnostic testing to identify any learning gaps your student might have, all the way up to high school academic projections and transcripts. And upon completion of the course of work, your student will receive an accredited high school diploma. Go to MidwestChristianAcademy.com and fill out the form and use the code BUILDERS in the referral line, and you'll receive a 50% discount on your first year's registration fee. Midwest Christian Academy, do good by your students and give them a Christian education. Do great by your students and enroll them in Midwest Christian Academy. Well, Brother Harold, we've been talking about finances for a couple of episodes now. And you, in our last episode, right at kind of at the end, left us a cliffhanger where nobody was injured in the filming of this podcast. Uh, but you left us a cliffhanger where you asked about budgeting. And, most people think that they know how to budget, and then when you start digging around, you find out that they don't. For instance, Brother Harold, did you know most people, when they start planning their budget, they look first at what their expenses are and what they're going to spend, and then second at how much income that they have?
Yeah, that's not good.
That's what most people do every time. In fact, I cannot think of a time I have counseled somebody in the last 30 years of pastoring about finances that we've begun to talk about budgeting, and they haven't said, well, I start with, my house payment or my rent or my car payment, and then I figure out how much I will have left, what have left from what? You have to start with your income. And we went over the biblical principle last week of setting some aside for investing for the future, but also the absolute biblical command to tithe. And Brother Harold, how much is a tithe?
10%.
And is that 10% of what I have left after I've paid my bills and gone to McDonald's and bought a nice coffee?
No, it's
Ooh.
definitely not.
10% off the top, right? For the first fruits, the first 10% goes to the Lord. And I shared the advice I received many years ago: 10% for the Lord, 10% to invest, and then live on the rest. And you don't have to do the 10% to invest if you don't want to, or if you feel like you just can't. But the 10% for the Lord is absolute. You don't have a choice on that. And I might add, Brother Harold, of course, the 10% is the commandment, but there's nothing that prohibits us from giving the Lord more than 10%, is there?
Right. I mean, that's where offerings come in, tithes and offerings.
Exactly. And even over and above tithes and offerings for the work of the local church is our missions giving, and what we by faith promise to send to the work of missions for the coming year, which is how most churches do it, according to what the Apostle Paul instructed in the book of Acts. Book of Acts. Okay. Yes. Again, we're recording this on Monday. Just want to reiterate, okay? Paul instructs that in the book of 2 Corinthians. Thank you. Sorry about that, but it's been a rough week, Brother Harold. Man,
But it's only Monday.
It was a great week. Last week was a great week. I had my daughter and son-in-law and two granddaughters visiting from Wisconsin, and had so much fun with them, and got to spend some good quality time with my grandkids as well as with my daughter and son-in-law, and got to go see fireworks and a patriotic concert, and just had a wonderful full week with them, but also working on remodeling our church building, trying to get ready for Vacation Bible School coming up in 2 weeks. So it's been a lot of late nights, early mornings, and not much in between. So if you'll have to forgive me if I'm stumbling a little bit here with the occasional where the reference is found. But anyways, that being said, Brother Harold, so we have 10% for the Lord at least, and then possibly 10% set aside. That leaves us 80% of our income. So what do we do if 80% of our income does not cover our expenses? Well, the number one thing we can do is decrease our expenses, right?
Right.
And for the modern era that we live in, probably most people, one immediate area they can decrease expenses is eating out. And, I was actually talking to a 20-something recently who's having some financial difficulties. And I said, well, how often do you go out to eat? And he said, I go out to eat every meal, breakfast, lunch, supper, 7 days a week. Unless I go to somebody's house to eat to eat from their refrigerator. He said, I do not have food at my house. I do not cook food at my house. And then he said this: it's cheaper for me to eat all my meals out than it is for me to go buy groceries and eat in. And I said, how could that possibly be? And his response was this, Brother Harold. He said, if I go to the grocery store to buy food, I buy a bunch of food I don't need. And I said, well, that's not that, but that's a discipline issue. That doesn't mean you can eat cheaper eating out. Just means you don't have the discipline to buy what you need from the grocery store for groceries, for meals. And Brother Harold, I'm finding that the current generation has little to no idea how to prepare a weekly menu and then how to go grocery shopping for that menu. So let's just start right here, because we all have to eat, right? I mean, we're Baptists, amen?
Yeah.
Eating's what
My
we do.
love language.
That's right. So we all have to eat, and let's say that we're going to eat 3 meals a day, 7 days a week, Brother Harold. If my math is correct, that is 21 meals that have to be planned and food purchased for.
Right.
Now, unless you just moved into your first big person apartment or house and were living with your parents up until yesterday, you probably already have some food in your refrigerator and some food in your cabinets. Maybe you don't have a lot, but you probably have something. You probably have maybe a bottle of ketchup, bottle of mustard, jar of pickles from 3 or 4 years ago that you opened up and ate one pickle. Whatever you have, you probably have something in your refrigerator. But if you do have that jar of pickles, throw it away.
Yeah.
Brother Harold, throw it away. Okay. Yeah. I got to tell this. The Heralds come to our house on a pretty frequent basis. And maybe 2.5 years ago, they went grocery shopping while you guys were here for like a week. And your wife went shopping, and she bought what is almost a 55-gallon drum of ketchup. Now, it's just my wife and I here, and neither of us really uses ketchup very much. And so this gigantic cauldron of ketchup sat in our refrigerator for over 2 years. And every once in a while, we'd have somebody over, they'd be like, do you have any ketchup? Oh, yeah, here's this big old bottle of, 900-ounce bottle of ketchup. Sure, help yourself, And we watched over the course of time as it slowly, and I kept checking the date on that thing. Nope, not expired yet. But it gradually, I think when it expired, I think we threw away maybe a third of the bottle that was still left. It was just unbelievable. But anyways, that story has no spiritual significance, ladies and
Oh
gentlemen.
yeah, it does. Our family our size, that's good budgeting, brother.
Okay, there you go. There you go. That's what I told him. Anyway, so you probably have some food in the refrigerator, in the cabinets, whatever. You're ready. Okay, so you're going to start your menu. And, what you do is you figure out what day you're going to go grocery shopping. You start your menu for the next morning. So your breakfast, what am I going to have for breakfast? You say, well, how am I supposed to know what I feel like eating 6 days from now for breakfast? It's very simple. You write down on a piece of paper what you plan to eat 6 days from now for breakfast. And then 6 days from now, you look at that piece of paper or your phone or wherever, and you see, it says I'm going to have 2 eggs and 3 pieces of bacon and a cup of coffee for breakfast. And you're going to eat that because that's what you purchased 2 or 3 days earlier when you went grocery shopping. Well, what if I don't feel like eating? What if I want cereal? Tough beans. Eat the eggs and the bacon because that's what you bought. That's what you planned. It's called, say it with me, discipline. That was weak. Let's try it again. 1, 2, 3. Discipline. I'm sure our listeners were saying it with us. Maybe not. Okay. So you plan out. This is what I'm having for breakfast. This is what I'm having for lunch. This is what I'm having for dinner. These are the kinds of snacks, popcorn or chips or Oreo double stuffed cookies.
Yeah.
And can I get an amen that double stuff is the new minimum standard for the amount of stuffing in an Oreo cookie? My wife gets the old-fashioned Oreo cookies, which I call barely stuffed. And then she takes them and she scrapes half of the filling out. I mean, I'm not supposed to air dark family secrets like that, but
See, you could have finished with then she puts it in my cookie so that I could.
No, it doesn't matter at that point. I mean, I'm afraid for my life. What other monstrous things is she capable of if she does that? And she even said these words. They've got a new mega stuffed Oreo. And I heard her say, that's terrible. That's way too much vanilla stuffing in the Oreo.
Wow.
What? What? How? I don't know, man. Anyways, all right. So you're buying chips, you're buying popcorn, you're buying cookies, whatever. If you can afford it now, don't buy chips, popcorn, and cookies if you couldn't afford to buy the pound of hamburger or the lunch meat or the loaf of bread or whatever it was that you were buying, right? And so you plan out your meals. You plan, this is what I'm going to do. And then you go and you make a list of all the ingredients. Okay, I'm going to need this many eggs. I'm going to need this much bacon. I'm going to need this many pieces of bread. I'm going to need this much peanut butter, this much lunch meat, whatever, and I don't recommend that on the same sandwich, by the way.
Nice.
Oh, thank you. Okay. I'm going to have spaghetti. So I need spaghetti noodles. I need spaghetti sauce. I need some meat. I need some garlic bread to have with my spaghetti and meatballs. Maybe a little lettuce for a salad. I'm going to need some dressing for the lettuce. Maybe some croutons. Then you make the list of all the ingredients for all the meals. And then you go to the refrigerator and you cross off what you already have. And then you go to the cabinet and you cross off what you already have. And what's left is your grocery list. And you go and you buy those things and only those things. And then you have your food for the week. And then what you don't do is you don't get to Tuesday night and say, I'm really tired. I don't feel like making spaghetti. Let's just go to McDonald's. Nope. You haven't budgeted for that. You've already bought food to eat on Tuesday night. That's what you eat. Doesn't matter how tired you are. Doesn't matter what else is going on in your life. You have to be disciplined to stick with the things that you budgeted to eat.
Now, it doesn't sound foreign as you're saying this, because if we go back, family builders, to elementary, junior high, high school, the cafeteria literally ran on a financial budget, but also on a food budget. They knew what they were going to buy, not just for the week, Brother Moore. Where I went to school, they actually gave us the cafeteria lunch calendar. And so that's a lot of discipline, and I think that's what's missing. The other thing, Brother Moore, is I'm going to be messed up in August. We've got some traveling, doing a couple revivals and different things. But September, we're back in the saddle. Homeschooling kicks in, back to all of our training for ISC, RSC. And so I'm going to commit publicly, and my family does listen to these episodes, that September, we're not only going to have a cafeteria-style calendar, they're going to go shopping with us, and moms and dads, they're going to help us make the meals. There's so much involved in this that we can show them, yeah, this is why we don't get that peanut butter. We get this peanut butter. Look at the cost difference. I've never done that, Brother Moore, as a father, that I think this is part of finances in the family. Is helping them see those
Absolutely.
things.
And you could even do kind of a reverse engineering on that, where you could say, this is why we pay a little more to get this, because the quality is so much better and it's better for us. And so long run, we're saving money, on doctor's visits or, whatever kind of weird diseases we might get from eating all the chemicals. So that's a great idea to involve your family in that process. Now, right now, probably most of our listeners are going, snore, an entire episode about grocery shopping. No, the episode was about figuring out I don't have enough money for all of my expenses. So one area I'm going to cut out. And Brother Harold, you're not going to believe this. I prepared for this episode. I haven't been to McDonald's for a while for a meal. Yeah, I'm not counting. Every Sunday when I go to get the donuts for church, I'll stop and get my wife and I a breakfast sandwich and a cup of coffee for her and a glass of orange juice for me, just kind of as a get us going on a Sunday morning type of treat. But as far as a cheeseburger, fries, and a Coke, haven't done it in a long time. Yesterday, I went to McDonald's for cheeseburger, fries. I got the 2 cheeseburger value meal, Brother Harold, medium fries, large Coke. How much do you think that cost in Oklahoma City?
Medium size. I'm gonna guess at least $12, something
12
like that.
bucks. Just under, like 11 something.
Wow.
That's insanity. When we moved here 6 years ago, that was a $4 meal.
Yeah, I believe
It's
it.
tripled. It's tripled. It's expensive to go out to eat. I'll tell you what, I could go to the grocery store and buy groceries, and I wouldn't come close to $12 for a meal.
Not for just one meal. No.
Right. Unless it was like I went and bought a T-bone steak or something. But even steak, I'm kind of particular about meat. I don't buy meat from Walmart or, wherever like that. I go to a place that, this is Oklahoma. We have butcher shops here that, they get the cow right out of the field and hack a piece off and bring. No, it's not quite that close, but it's pretty close. And I go and I get fresh meat when we get meat. If we get a roast or steak or something, and I usually watch for them to have a sale. And sometimes they'll have a sale of sirloin steak for $8.99 a pound. And you go get 3/4 of a pound. And it's not that bad. It's a little expensive, but it's not an everyday type of meal. Whereas $12 at McDonald's is what you would pay every single time. So it's definitely cheaper to go and buy your food and to plan it out so that you're not doubling up, and then use discipline to eat what you planned for.
I'll be honest. Last episode you mentioned, because I did leave everyone on a cliffhanger on the budgeting, and you mentioned discipline, and I couldn't put them together. I was going, yeah, discipline. You gotta. I didn't even know what to say, and I'm listening to you describe just budgeting, and I'm going, yeah, how many meals at such and such a restaurant, fast food, I'm not talking restaurant, just
Right.
drive through, is really killing my retirement, our college education, if the kids decide to go to college, whatever. It is a discipline or lack of discipline issue more than I understood after last episode, Brother Moore.
Yeah.
So keep unpacking. We got a few more minutes here.
Well, and I get it. Fast food, any kind of restaurant food doesn't have to be fast food. You could order from Outback Steakhouse and get a sirloin steak dinner with a baked potato and a salad and a piece of that fantastic rye bread that they have. Oh. You can get the whole meal, and it's like, it used to be 13, 14 bucks. Now it's like 20, 23, something like that. You can get that. You can call them ahead. You can go on the app and you can punch in the thing and they'll have it ready for you. And it's so convenient, Brother Harold. And you can so easily justify it. My wife worked all day. I worked all day. We're tired. We don't want to cook. It's 1,000,000 degrees in Oklahoma. I don't want to turn the oven on and stand there for a half hour making dinner. We can come home. We can open up our little styrofoam containers from Outback and we can eat. Or we can open up our paper wrapped sandwiches from McDonald's and we can eat and we can be filled and it's convenient. And it's burning through our budget. So it takes discipline. Discipline sometimes is hard.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard. Let's even make it a little simpler than this. Brother Harold, and I know this is not going to affect you whatsoever, so you can take off your steel-toed shoes for a moment, okay?
Phew.
I have family members, not my wife, but family members, daughters, daughters-in-law, sons, sons-in-law, who drink a lot of coffee and seem averse to making the coffee at their home. And so they like to go out and get coffee. Now, I enjoy coffee. I make coffee every morning and have one cup, but it's a big cup. And and I spice it up with usually a triple shot of espresso on the espresso maker. And then I make very strong coffee, and then I set the cream next to it to take a little of the edge off, and then that's good, and I'm ready to go for the day. As for those of you who don't know, Brother Harold is literally turning inside out as I describe this. He likes coffee that he calls coffee, but you can look into the cup and see the bottom of the cup because the coffee's so weak. And then what he does is he takes a half of a pint of cream and he fills the cup up with that and calls it quote unquote coffee.
I
He's a grown man and does
I
this.
I plead guilty. I'm not even no contest.
It's under the blood, brother. It's under the blood. But anyways, let's say that you like a coffee treat, whether it's a hot coffee, a mocha, a latte, an iced coffee, a macchiato or a macchiato or whatever weird half Italian, half German, whatever thing you're buying. Brother Harold, those things are expensive.
Yeah, I call it a cup of $7.
Yeah. Do you, I mean, seriously, do people not understand how much coffee costs?
7 is actually low.
Right. I could go to the grocery store and get a gigantic bottle of Folgers Classic Roast coffee and an entire package of coffee filters. And the package of coffee filters will last like a year. I think there's 365 in a package, literally. I mean, it's just a huge, use one a day and you're good. And then dump the coffee in, and it's pennies, Brother Harold. Pennies per cup. As opposed to going to a coffee shop and not picking any one in particular, but, celestial beings on dollars. But some of you will get that about 3 o'clock in the morning. You'll wake up and go, oh, I get it. All right. But you can go to one of those places and you can pay $7, $8, $9, $10, $11, $12 for a worse cup of coffee. And by the way, many of those places brag about using their profits to support things like abortion and homosexual rights and every kind of thing that is the absolute enemy of Christianity. So they're twice an enemy because they're making you a bad steward of your money and they're contributing to these other causes. We may lose all of our listeners today.
Well, I don't think so, since I'm a listener, because I listen.
All of our listeners except for you and me.
I listen to these. I know I record them, Family Builders, but we're not talking down to you.
No, not at all.
We're both wanting to be better stewards of not just our finances, but both of us are pastoring churches that are by no means rich.
Correct.
There's just no means. And it's not an exaggeration. We're not puffed up with who we are. We know who we are. We're thankful for who God has us, where he has us, but we have to mind our finances. And really, whether you have a ton or not, we're still going to be held accountable, and discipline is required. And so I'm really feeling convicted because I do want to do better as a husband, father, pastor, etc., as a believer, as a family builder. I was going to say peculiar pilgrim, but that too. I do want to do better. And so I know I've got some friends, good friends, that every day they go get a cup of $7 at least every day. But those same people drive vehicles they wish they didn't drive so that they could drive something a little more dependable, etc. I mean, honestly, Brother Moore, if you spent $4 a day on a 30-day month, 4 times 3 was at $120 a month.
Right.
And you can't find a $4 cup of coffee that I know of, I guess. It's cheaper at home, like you said. So this is a big deal, and we're just trying to help.
So we're about out of time, but I'm gonna give you a little tease into the next episode. We talked already about the tithe and the offerings and missions giving and 10% for the Lord, 10% to invest, live on the rest. I'm going to show you in real world dollars and cents how you can increase the amount you give to the Lord, as well as increasing the amount that you have to put aside to invest. And Brother Harold, I've done this for myself. It is shocking. It is shocking. So hopefully this will be a blessing to you with this episode, but also with the next episode when we come back next week. Until that time, Brother Harold, if you don't have anything else, why don't you go ahead and take us out?
Sure. Thank you for listening to the Family Builders Podcast. Please subscribe and share this week's podcast with your friends and family. Also, if you have any questions for either of us, please do not hesitate to email us at familybuilderspodcast@gmail.com. Who knows? Maybe we'll even answer your question on one of our future episodes. Until next time, Family Builders, never let up.